morning and welcome to video number 54 of me growing out my beard. Today we will be talking about some weird facts about military bands, and as someone who's been in a military band for 4 years, I have a bit of an inside scoop on this. But before we get into it, make sure that you click that subscribe button, ring that Liberty Bell, and click that like button. I am currently the second most subscribed EMC channel, and when I become number 1, I will make a very special video. Okay, let's go join the military. Fact number 1 is that you have to go to boot camp. Yes, even if you are going in for music, you still have to do the same basic training that anyone else in your military branch has to do as well. There are some exceptions to that, such as the President's Own. They have their own training, which is different than boot camp, that is more specified to their needs. And some of you might be thinking, like, why do the musicians have to go to boot camp? Like, shouldn't they all be specified to their needs? Which brings me to my next weird fact. Most of the stuff you do in boot camp, you never have to do again after that. Training exercises such as the rappel tower, the gas chamber, the rifle range, swim qual, the O course, and the confidence course. Most Marines have to do all of those things annually, but the Marines in the Drum and Bugle Corps, we don't have to do any of that crap after boot camp. There are some units in the military that can request exemption from annual training. In the Drum and Bugle Corps' case, they're touring and performing hundreds of shows throughout the year, so there's not really any time to do all of this training. That doesn't apply to their mission anyways. I believe that is specific just to the Drum and Bugle Corps. I think the Fleet Band musicians have to do some of that annually, but, well, I only had to do it once at boot camp. Although we do get the option sometimes to go to the rifle range if we so choose, because the score you get at the rifle range, that is looked at during promotion boards. But for the Drum and Bugle Corps, they would just take the most recent rifle score that you got. So when I was in boot camp, I scored expert, which is the highest one you can get. So I never went and redid the rifle range because, well, there's nowhere to go but down from there. So I just retained my expert score all the way through. Although there are some things at boot camp that you do have to continue doing, such as martial arts training, and also the 2 annual fitness tests, the PFT and CFT. You have to do those every year. And if you couldn't tell by now, most of the stuff I'm talking about is like specific to the Marine Corps, because, well, that's what I was in, so that's what I know about. Anyone else who is knowledgeable on other branches of the military, please post that in the comments and let me know if any of this is any different. Fact number 3 is that bands used to get sent out to combat. Yes, back in the good old days, the musicians would also have secondary combat-related roles. And this hasn't been a thing I've heard of happening for a really long time. It was not something that I was even concerned about while I was in. It's written in the orders, I believe this goes for all military bands, that if all hands are needed to go fight a war, then they would take the guards from your base, they would send them to war, and then the musicians would become the guards of the base. Because, well, you can't just leave the base unguarded, right? Then any random jamoke could just walk in there. But keep in mind that orders can change at any time, okay? It's the military after all. Fact number 4 is the pay is pretty weird. So the pay is not based on the job you get, it is based on your time in grade and time in service, so whatever your rank is and how long you've been there. Some of the more difficult and stressful jobs, they'll have like a signing bonus, so you'll get extra if you sign up for that, but after that point then you're getting paid the same amount as anyone who has the same rank and has been in as long as you. It doesn't matter if you're a grunt out there sleeping in a foxhole or in the Drum and Bugle Corps staying at the Marriott, we're getting paid the same amount. And I probably just pissed off any grunts watching this video by saying that, but, well, the truth hurts. Another pretty weird part about the pay is that if you are married, you will make quite a bit more money than somebody who is single. And if you have kids, then you will make even more money. And that is because of BAH, Basic Allowance for Housing. So us single dudes, we get free government housing provided at the barracks. Think of it like a college dorm, but with a bunch of rifles. And that's basically the barracks. So you have your barracks room, and you also have a roommate living with you in your barracks room until you rank up to sergeant, and then you get your own barracks room. Now, if you're married and have a bunch of kids, then you can't be living in the barracks room with a roommate who has a wife and a bunch of kids, okay? You need your own place for spousal activities. So you get paid quite a bit of extra money to afford to have your own place to live. And depending on your situation, if your spouse also has a job, then there could be a chance that you might be pocketing a good amount of that BAH money. So if you're in the military and thinking about getting married, stop thinking about it. Go do it immediately. Go down to the courthouse and sign the papers because you'll be making more money. And it's also recommended that you just buy a bunch of huge things for your house, like a snowblower and a tractor and maybe 5 or 6 junk cars. Because when you get divorced, then you have a good solid argument on why you should keep your BAH. You got all this huge crap, right? Where are you gonna put it? You can't bring it into the barracks, and then maybe you'll be allowed to keep that basic allowance for housing. Maybe. I don't know, you never know. It's the military. Anything could happen. Fact number 5 is the rank structure kind of doesn't make much sense. Now this just might be specific to the unit I was in, the Drum and Bugle Corps, so I would like to hear from some other military musicians if this also applies to you. So the way the rank structure works in general is that the rank of E4, which is corporal in the Marines, that's basically when you're considered a leader. And musicians, we all start at E2 and work our way up the rank structure. Probably in like 2 to 5 years you should be at E4. Now the thing with this is that Drum Corps International, this activity has a very high influence on how we operate in the Marine Corps Drum and Bugle Corps. That activity is constantly evolving and demanding higher and higher skill and proficiency on marching and playing your instrument. So the new members that the Drum and Bugle Corps recruits are coming off of DCI. They've recently marched there, so they're at that highest level, that new standard. And yes, there is definitely a learning curve to adapting to life in the military, but as far as the actual job goes, they're at the top of the game, these new guys that are coming in. And it's pretty often that new guys coming into the Drum and Bugle Corps, they would get like music section leader positions after just a few months of being there. But the thing is, they're not paid as leaders, right? Because that's E4 is the rank that you're considered a leader. And that's not up to the Drum and Bugle Corps to decide how much they get paid. That's like Headquarters Marine Corps deciding that. So Headquarters Marine Corps, I demand that you promote all of the new Drum and Bugle Corps Marines to E4 because they are leaders. Do it now. And weird fact number 6 is the job security. This is probably the most secure job you can get as a performing musician, is working in a military band. Because there's always steady gigs, and even if there's not steady gigs, you are still getting a steady paycheck because Uncle Sam pays you bi-weekly no matter what. And as long as you don't do anything illegal while you're serving, and also pass all your fitness tests and remain somewhat mentally stable, at least a little bit, then you should be able to re-enlist every 4 years if you choose to, and then you can retire at 20 years with full benefits. However, there is kind of a negative side with how secure the job is, and this is not really talked about that much, but I'm going to talk about it. So like I said before, the bands, they're recruiting at the highest level of musicians, right? Musicians that are younger and setting new standards. So the old guys that have been in the military bands, they have to keep up with these new youngsters. And if there's someone that's been in for a while that is not keeping up from a musical standpoint, it can be very difficult to get that person removed from the unit. Because if they're doing all the right things from a military standpoint, right? They haven't gotten in trouble, they haven't done anything illegal, they've gotten high scores on all the fitness tests, that person is not going to get discharged early, alright? Because that's like a Headquarters Marine Corps decision. That only happens if you, like, you know, fail a drug test or are, like, failing fitness tests. You have to really, really screw up to get kicked out, okay? It's not an easy thing to do. Okay, well that's all the fun facts I have about joining a military band. If you'd like to hear more about military-related music, I have an entire playlist of military band-related stuff. You should check out all of those videos. And also make sure that you click that subscribe button, ring that Liberty Bell, and click that like button. Thank you to everyone who supports me on Patreon. If you are able to, please consider going over there to make a donation. It will help the channel out a whole lot. And also consider buying a custom t-shirt, such as this one. I will leave that link in the description. And have a good morning.